Welcome back to another episode of The Money Honey, the show that brings together women in property, finance, and construction. Now, I'm very lucky to be surrounded by some of the best leaders, male and female, in the industry. I've been in financial services for 7 years and more now. And so I've met quite a lot of people in this industry and have formed some great relationships. But every day I'm meeting new people, like people I've never seen before, people I've never heard of before, people that I might have just crossed paths but never really like had much of a conversation with. And today is very much one of those situations where, again, I am presented with another money honey of the industry, another fierce leader, female leader in the space that I've never met before. And I'm like, yes, I like every day I'm like, yeah, here's another. And that's what this show is all about. It's just the evidence, right? If you're listening to this is evidence that it's done, it's being done, it's changing, it's happening. And that's exactly what Sabinder today from Avamore Capital will be sharing with me. So here she is, Sabinder Robinson-Sandhu from Avamore Capital will be joining me on the show to talk about, in particular, getting into financial services at a certain age and how age can have an impact on your career progression or how you develop within the industry. Now, Sabinder is a director of operations at Avamore. She originally joined the firm in April 2018 as a marketing coordinator, and she has been key in the growth of the business, driving core strategies to build Avamore's brand in the market. And so here she is to tell us, her career, her journey, but she works really close with management and her team to drive improvements and to really aim and create outstanding customer experiences. So she's got a fantastic professional background. She, looks at technology improvements as well. But she also, because this is, the money honey, she really does want to highlight what it was like entering financial services and what that meant at her age. So without further ado, I'm going to bring her on. Hi there, Sabinder.
Hi there.
Hi, so nice to finally meet you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Oh, thank you. Have you been seeing the show much? I don't know how it's landing on that side. So have you been following it for a while?
I'd seen your LinkedIn presence very, very active, and I'd noticed that you've got a few speakers in our space coming on. So it kind of piqued my interest. So yeah, really excited to be participating in it.
Yes, amazing. You know what I love, and thank you so much for connecting and just being part of that online community. It makes us feel like it's all worth it. When I'm curating my content and I'm putting it out there, I'm like, yes, right, okay, it's reaching the right people. But what I really loved and why I was really excited about bringing you on the show is because you put your hand up, and that's really important, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think because my background is marketing, so I when I see something I like, I think it's actually really worthwhile pointing it out and saying something because I know it's appreciated on the other side. So yeah, definitely wanted to kind of put my hand up and throw my hat into the ring, as it were.
Yes. Yeah. And do you know what? I think that is a massive quality that women all over the world have when they're trying to break barriers and trying to break into spaces that are maybe male dominated. Like you just said, you throw your hat in the ring. You're like, I want part of this. I want to be part of this. And I think it takes that courage. It takes that showing up and putting your hand up. Now, a lot of the time when I ask people to be on the show, I find them and I'm like, hey, did you know? And I know I have to do that as a marketer. I have to put my show on their radar if I want to, with the mission of this podcast, reach the women that I want to reach. But it is really exciting when someone puts their hand up, because that's the whole point of this industry. It's the fact, or just trying to break this barrier, right, of removing the stigma around it being a male trade. We have to speak up, right? So how often have you had to speak up, Sabinder? In what, how has it been in your career where you've had to be like, no, I'm eligible for this?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question, because I think you tend to speak up in situations where you feel, well, at least I do, where I feel confident that I'm the kind of right person for the job. And there have definitely been instances where I've spoken up and perhaps put myself forward and not got something. And I think that's okay. And that's really useful as a learning objective, because it means that you know what like rejection feels like, basically. So when you get it the second or third time you go for it, it means so much more, and you feel like you've really earned it. So I think in my career specifically, I've been quite lucky in the way that it's grown, because it's been quite natural and organic, particularly kind of my journey through Avamore. But I think one example where I did kind of failed, but then tried again, was joining the board of the Association of Short-Term Lenders. So I was elected last August, I think it was, but it wasn't the first time I'd gone for it. I went for it a few years before, and it was probably a bit too early in my career to do so. And the fact that I didn't get it first time round was actually right. And it feels like now that I'm a bit more established, my knowledge is better, I can talk about the business, I can talk about the market much better. Actually getting it this time round, it feels right, and it feels so much more appropriate. So I'm quite grateful that I had that first knock, but also had the kind of oomph to say, you know what, why not, let's do it again. Because the worst thing that's going to happen is it's a no, and then you kind of move on from it, and then it's fine. But if it's a yes, then that's great.
Love that, Sabinder. But you say that so casually, like, yeah, you just go again, and you just, no, people don't think like that. We get held back by that first no, and we make it mean something. We make it mean, oh, maybe it was because I was a woman, or maybe it's because I was too young, or maybe because I was just, not right. We just make that the story. And actually, what you do is you turn the story around and you say, no, I'm going to come back better, stronger. I often find myself coming back much stronger when I've been set back. Whereas when I've got something really easily, you kind of take it for granted and you think, oh yeah, that was easy. But it's when you fight for something that means something, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. There's a little element of me that's quite a firm believer of, things happen for a reason and things work out in a certain way.
Totally.
And that's why, if I really believe in something or I really want to do something, I will keep kind of bouncing at it until, and sometimes it doesn't work out, sometimes it's not right, and that's okay. And I sometimes think, well, that kind of wasn't in your path anyway, so that's fine. There'll be something that happens 6 months, a year, 2 years down the line that you're like, you know what, if that had worked out, I wouldn't be doing X, Y, and Z. And that's, I always think that, both like personally and professionally. And it's like rung true in so many instances throughout my life. So that's kind of my mantra.
Absolutely. I literally have so many events that like have happened, and then like little freaky things happen, like you see something, you're like, oh my god, like I can't believe this is it. And so yeah, it does make sense in the end, or you hope it does anyway, and that's what you've got to do, stay hopeful, just like you did. So congratulations for getting that title in the end, for getting that achievement. That's really fantastic. So we were speaking offline a little bit about coming into the industry and trying to break your career, trying to make your career, and how age can have an impact on that. So the industry is getting younger, right? I think we can say that. I think people want that. Even, I have companies that I work with, like brokerages that are 20, 25 years old. Some have been running their business for 30, and they're thinking about hiring the next generation. But it's not always been that appealing, this industry, to attract the younger generation. So I don't know, how old were you? Do you mind me asking, when you joined financial services?
So I was 24, so I'm 29 now. So yeah, I got 30 on the horizon.
Oh my God, so you're not 30 yet?
No, I'm not 30 yet. So
okay, no, you definitely give off a much more mature vibe. So I'm older than you.
Well, I don't know. It's just
wow.
There's been this was like a real acceleration. That's why I think the age element is really important for me. As you say, the industry is actually trying to attract a lot of young talent, and when you look around, and you can definitely see that with lenders and with brokers, and we at Avamore have done exactly that. So when when I joined the business, we were 7 people. And from there, the growth strategy that worked was hire young, train up, give people autonomy, give people opportunities that they wouldn't get outside of in a larger business, they then stay and apply themselves so much more. And that kind of recipe, I guess, has worked really, really well for Avamore, which is why I feel so strongly about, giving opportunities to young people that have the right attitude. I think there's too much of, you have to spend X number of years doing this before you can take the next step. And it's like, well, why? Just because someone sat in their seat for ages doesn't mean they're good at it. It doesn't mean that, they're the best person for the job. You could have someone else that's, maybe they're not as experienced. I'm definitely not the most experienced person in the world. I'm not the most experienced in the role that I do. There will be people that could come in who have got, 10, 15 years worth of experience to be in a director position or sit on the board or, oversee operations of a business. But I firmly believe that you get the best out of people that actually care and have that drive and have that passion. And actually a lot of that comes from, being young and seeing young people and working with young people and that kind of energy motivating one another, because people are ambitious and they want to get to the top as quickly as they can. And if there's a space to do it, we should absolutely, encourage and nurture and reward good people, no matter what their age is.
Yeah, absolutely. You are living proof that that is absolutely possible. I think it's just so inspiring to see someone entering the space below 30, get into a senior position, making massive moves within the business that you're in. You made a big impact, and you already have had knockbacks in such a short space of time. You've had knockbacks and then achieved them, which to me shows that you are a type of person that likes to fail fast. You like to go at things, but you move on quickly. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. I think that has come over time. If I look back to when I was like tiny and at school, I used to be very like, I used to have quite a defeatist attitude. And I remember when I was younger, my mum and my dad used to say, you've just got to get back up. And I used to find it really quite hard and really take things to heart. And I think as you get a bit older, you understand like things aren't personal. Things, it's not because someone dislikes you, it's just that someone doesn't agree with you, or maybe someone doesn't have the same perspective, and that's okay. And so I think failing fast is a really good kind of term, because in the moment, like sometimes it hurts and sometimes your failures can really, really get you down, but your failures, like I said earlier, is what they're kind of what makes you stronger. And so if you went through life being scared of failing, I don't think you'd ever achieve your true potential, because if you kind of coast and take the easy route, then you never get that feeling of like, oh wow, I've like done this, that is a huge success and I feel so happy and proud of myself. So I think those downs are so as important as the ups.
Yeah, 100%. There is no up, right? You can't have a feeling towards something positive if you don't know what the contrast feels like either. So it makes you really value those up moments, as we call them. So love that. So what about other women entering the financial services space at such a young age? I mean, I was 25. Was I 25? Yeah, I was 25 when I joined financial services. So very similar to you. And not only was I 25 and felt like the youngest person in the room all the time, but I was also female in the room, and I felt like I had to work harder to prove my age and to prove that I knew what I was talking about, and also at the same time own, my gender and whatever. So how would you help the next person coming in and trying to navigate their way through this career if they feel like age or gender is holding them back?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because I think it's quite easy to say, you should always speak up, and you should always, you've kind of got a voice, you've got a valid opinion, because when you're in the moment and you're in that situation, it's really hard to put yourself forward. I think for me, if I was to give someone advice, it's actually advice someone gave to me when I was kind of struggling with something and trying to get my foot in, was if you're sat in a situation where you are worried, or you feel like, this person doesn't want to hear from me because I don't know, if you get in there first, if you make the very, very first point, you've kind of done it. You've already achieved it. And the worst thing is if you let that go on for too long, and then you're like, oh God, I've got so much pressure. Like now everyone else knows what they're talking about. Now everyone else knows what they're saying, and it's going to be even harder for me to contribute. So I think taking the plunge and taking that leap first in any setting is is my advice, is kind of get out the starting blocks as quickly as you can, whether that's like, I guess, applying for something or just going for an opportunity. It's almost like don't dither, because the more you dither, the more you like talk yourself out of it, and then that cycle never changes. But if you just kind of sometimes I think you just shut your eyes and go for it, and that is the way that we'll start making a difference as a collective, if more people kind of stick their oar in and say no, like, I've got something to say. I'm as important as everyone else around the room. Doesn't matter how old I am. Doesn't matter that I'm female. Doesn't matter who I am. I am here just the same as everybody else. And that's a really important mantra to have. But it's a really hard thing because it's so uncomfortable. And even now, there are plenty of situations where I don't feel confident speaking, because maybe I know that I'm not the person in the room that knows the most on that topic, but you just gotta go for it, and it gets easier over time.
Yeah, I don't think you have to be the person that knows the most in the room. I think sometimes that person, there's people that act like they know everything in the room, and maybe they have a way of, the confidence takes over. They're so good at being confident that the confidence takes over, and actually they don't know everything, but they are confident. And actually, I think that's okay. I think if you are confident, even when you don't know something, that's better than being confidently cocky and still not knowing something. It's better to just be like, do you know what? I know how to solve problems. I know how to make things happen. I know I'm resourceful. I'm not really too sure about this situation right now, but I'm so confident I can make that happen. That's better than pretending in my opinion anyway. It's better than pretending
Yeah, I think it's that, knowing where if like, everyone has weaknesses. Like, nobody is 100% perfect. Nobody knows everything. And I think exactly as you say, the way to portray it is, this is what I think. Perhaps, I don't have all of the information, but from what I can see, I feel X, Y, and Z. And you know what? Some people in the room might be like, oh, well, whatever, you don't know that bit, so you don't know what you're talking about. But some people in the room will respect you, and that's okay. You don't
totally.
Purposes, you don't have to worry about what every single person around the table thinks, as long as you're confident in your own thing. That's all that really matters.
Yes, exactly. Like, I remember being a business development manager for a lender, and I was in sales, right? I've been in sales all my life. Like, marketing wasn't a career path that I had consciously chosen. I chose sales, and that's the career I went down. But I always had that like social element to, like, the way I was posting on social media with that lender, or using content to drive value with my customers. Like, I just organically knew that. Like, I didn't have a marketing degree. I just knew that that's the way the world worked, and that's how I could support my customers. And I knew that. I was confident in that when I was a BDM. But it was ridiculed at times. It was laughed at. It was like, oh yeah, social, we're salespeople. We're so like, why, like, all this LinkedIn stuff. And I was just so held back by like something I could have owned. I could have owned it. And then look now, like, I'm not a BDM anymore, and I lost my job because of the I've got made redundant and whatever. But I then used all the knowledge that I have and created something out of that, because I owned it, and I felt like I had that space to be able to grow into the skill. So, if there is a skill that you have and you think, what, it's not quite fitting in at work, or I don't know, someone at the table didn't quite agree with what I was saying, like, really don't give up on it. Like, just try and find something to pick it up and say, no, there's something here. And that's the confidence. It's having the confidence to like say, no, there is something here. I'm going to speak up about it.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And I think that it's even, your example is a really good one. I think it's similar in a way to kind of my time at Avamore, in the sense that where I started was so different to where I am now. I came in at a kind of entry-level position. Frankly, when I joined, I didn't think, I wasn't sure what my path would be, but I certainly didn't think it would be this. And for me, it just felt like there was so much opportunity in the operation side, and I guess what I'm doing now, that I kind of forced my own agenda a lot of the time. And luckily I was in an environment that was very supportive and very receptive to that. I was in a small business, or still am in a small business. But when people are willing to put their hand up and do extra, no one's going to say no to you in that environment. And that's what I love about working at Avamore. What I've always loved is that, if you want to do something, you just go and do it. And that's so different to, I spent a small amount of time in a big organization. It just did not suit me. I just didn't like it at all, because it was you felt very boxed off. And I was like, well, I want this, I want to do that. Well, maybe I'm stepping on my toes. And at Avamore, you've just never had any of that, because everyone is just striving for the same thing. Back when we were like 7 people, we were all trying to figure it out, work hard, and collectively, everybody, whether they're kind of here or they're not at the business anymore, everyone's played their part. And that's what's so nice about a company like Avamore.
I love that.
You leave your footprints everywhere.
That's so beautiful. That's so impactful, because I think sometimes it feels like you just wasted your time. All those jobs I had, all those places I've been in, I'm like, do they even care? Like, do they even care what I did for them? Like, how much I worked, how I put aside my health, my family, my social life, how many times I gave up going to the gym because I was like, I'm going to work later for them. And then you leave that company and you move on and they replace you. And then you're like, did that even matter? And it's just so nice that you've got a place that really takes into account everyone's contribution. That's really wonderful.
Yeah, I think for me, culture and people has always been really important, and that actually comes as part of wanting to make it a very kind of welcoming place. And diversity is, really high on everyone's agenda. It is on ours too. And I think for me personally, good culture is all about that side of things where, you can have all the fluffy things. We do really nice stuff, like we give you your birthday off, we have great socials, it's just like we do all of that. But for me, when you talk about culture and what really matters, it's that inherent feeling of belonging and feeling quite safe and feeling like you're making a difference. I've never, I think we've probably all at some point in our lives had a job where on a Sunday night you're like, oh, I feel terrible, I don't want to go in, or there's been a person that's really put you on edge. And now as someone that's kind of part of the leadership of the business, I would never ever want anyone in the company to feel like that. And I think that creating that environment will attract good talent, it will attract diverse talent, it stops homogeneity, because I think in the toxic cultures you just tend to see cookie cutters of the same sort of person, because you're like, well, they look like me, they are like me, so therefore they're going to work, and that creates a really bad environment, I think. And so that kind of culture element is really important in playing into generating greater diversity and making it an environment in which diversity can really flourish and grow.
That is so true. I've definitely been there. I've been in that environment where you just think, oh, the team's just not right, or there's the bosses, and sometimes how many conversations I'd go home and then people would be like, come on Ros, it's just a job, or don't take it personal, and all this kind of stuff. But actually it is personal. You're there every day, you're there all day. It needs to be a flourishing, a thriving environment, because that's where I spend most of my time. It has to be personal, it has to be a good place for me to be in, because otherwise, I'm only enjoying 20% of my life, just Saturday and Sunday. Actually, not even Sunday, because like you've just said, Sunday night, you might actually just start to feel the dread for Monday in the first place. So yeah, it's super important to find a place that you love working at. Have you got any jobs going? Because there might be listeners here thinking, oh, I want to work at Avamore.
To be fair, we do. We recruit quite regularly, quite actively, and exactly that. Kind of very fresh young talent that just really have really good attitude and want to do well for themselves. We don't really mind. We're not looking for people with years of experience, and we never really have. It's just that whoever's got the drive and whoever wants to put their hand up and do more, that's what we encourage. So yeah, if anyone out there is listening,
there you go. I didn't think this is where we were going, but actually, just thinking about it, wow! When I was looking for BDM jobs, and I was looking for forward-thinking places and places where I could thrive. Oh, I wish I'd known about you guys. I would have loved to have made a little dent in your journey back then, but hopefully I'll make it in this. So see how things turn around. Like hopefully my contribution to Avamore's success and development could be just you have 4 listeners today that listen that listen to the show.
Yeah,
I don't actually know how many subscribers I've got right now. I just don't check, because for me it's just like, let's just have fun with it. Let's just put it out there. Right now I don't know how many are listening or how many people have. So I probably should check that out. And if you are, I really should take my, I really should look up my numbers there. But having so much fun. But if you are listening, just give us a quick thumbs up. And if you like this episode, obviously share it with anyone, even that you think actually financial services is a place for the next generation. We absolutely are hungry for, graduates, school leavers, anyone who's lost in their path and actually doesn't know what they want to do, but they know they're good at a particular skill that is transferable, and actually they can bring it to an industry that is still evolving. Like we're still, like, lots of lenders are still paper-based. Lots of, advisors still haven't got like their CRMs, nailed, and their processes. Social media is taking over financial services and it's becoming the next big thing. So we're so hungry for young, fresh talent. We totally are open to it, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think you've made some really good points there, that actually the industry, I think, it's probably been generally a bit slower to adopt those kind of new ideas, or they don't even feel very new anymore. It's just a bit slower to adopt it. And I think that's what, young talent can bring is that energy and that edge. And we, at the moment, so I'm leading on our tech development, and at the moment working with just a couple of guys who are trying to basically start their own business, and they're using our company to try some stuff out, and they're so appreciative of it. For me, I'm like, well, you're doing this free of charge, and what the end result might be could be huge for our business. And so just having that openness to people that are contributing something new to this space, and new is not always scary, but also new is not always right. But if you can kind of give up your time and kind of open your doors to that, it could benefit you to no end in the future. So I do really believe that young people, with or without experience, have so much to offer, because they just have a different perspective. Everyone has a different perspective along the whole chain, and that's why it's so important that you have that mix, and that's the way you're going to succeed, is if you've got coverage across everything.
Yes, correct. In fact, there's a statistic that sticks out in my mind that I remember from all the research and reading that I do for these shows, and that is that 87% of diverse teams make better decisions. So the more diverse the team, with different cultures, backgrounds, ages, industries, skill set, make better decisions, better outcomes, because there is so much talent in one place. And that's exactly the culture that I hope to build, and I'm starting to build in the business, is that, when I've got a customer that's celebrating Ramadan and Eid, I try and adapt my sessions and I try and accommodate for their energy levels. And I'm like, right, okay, is this a good time? Is this not? Do you want to take a break? And so I'm trying to accommodate for them, and also just remembering their celebration days and kind of, knowing that they're going to be off. And so that's one thing. And then the way I hire as well, there's no, for me, it's about talent, right? I don't care how many years experience you've got, what gender you are, what age you are. I just want to bring in talent. I want to understand, what you bring to the business. So yeah, hiring people though is the hardest thing. I have to say, I struggle. And I used to be in recruitment. That's saying something.
God, yeah, no, I don't know how to do that. I also find it really hard to hire people, because I think when you go through the interview process, it's such a quick snapshot of a person, and actually until they come into the business, you don't really know how they're going to operate. And I've definitely made I'm not sure I am the best hire in the team, shall we say.
But you know what? Don't take it. No, I used to think that, Sabinder, and I used to put myself down thinking, no, I'm not a good hirer. But actually, how can you make that long-term commitment and decision on a person just from the first interview, second interview, and then that's it, you're in, right? It's a big risk. And I actually think back at all the people that hired me, because I'm not going to brag, but if I had an interview, I got the job. Do you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't get 100 interviews. I won't say I got every job I applied for, I got the interview. So sometimes my CV perhaps didn't make it past the cutting point, but if I got the interview, I got the job. And I just think back to all those people that were trying to hire me or did hire me, and I just like, I feel for them now. I think, wow, I wonder how I came across. I wonder what helped you make that decision in me, because I know how hard it is now to hire people.
Yeah.
But I found that when I hire them, I then, it's not until the first 2 or 3 months that I've really noticed like what it's all about. And so now, although I don't hire permanent full-time 9-to-5 staff, I hire like freelancers and contractors. I definitely understand the value of like that, probation period, and that, kind of like a try before you buy. So that's definitely the right way to still go. So don't beat yourself up. I think every employer feels exactly just like you.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think it goes both ways though as well. Like as an employee, as soon as you arrive, I think as soon as you step your foot in that door, you're like, I know whether I made the right choice or not. My first job was an absolute disaster. It was just
really
terrible. And it was just so. And to your point, I was like, I have no idea why you picked me to do this. It was awful. It was terrible. And I thought, it was my first job out of uni. And I thought, is this what working life is like? Just being, it was miserable. It was
I know exactly. I think we all go through that. I think you that post uni depression is definitely real, and I'm helping my cousin through it right now. Actually, she's got a phenomenal job, but before she got that job, she was like, oh, I don't know what I want to do with my life. So I think today, for me to wrap things up in summary, what it feels like to me in terms of when we talk about age. Wow, I have grown up, I think, with the best of both worlds. I know a world where there was no internet, at least for a little bit. And then I saw the internet come in. And I also know what it's like to pick up one of these things and actually make a phone call, right? Versus just texting and swipe and like typing all the time. So I think I have that traditional way of doing business in me, and also the modern techie way. Whereas like one thing that I would say to the next generation, to anyone that's below like 25, right? Coming out of uni, coming into the workspace, that just the one thing I would tell you to do, okay? This is my top. This is the unsolicited pep talk that you did not ask for, okay? So you're going to get it anyway. But if you are in your early 20s and you're coming out of education and you're coming into the workplace, right? You need to work hard. It's gone out of fashion. Working hard has gone out of fashion. And in the Instagram are making you think like, know your worth, know your value, do this. And they're making you think like you can achieve millionaire status or, directorship status within your first year just because you got a degree. Okay. So please note, I don't know if Sabinder agrees with this. I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but the reality is when you come out of uni, you think you can conquer the world. You think you've got it all sorted. You think you've got it nailed. But an employer is not here to shape you. They're here to run a business, and you need to start working hard. Like that's the key. What do you think, Sabinder? What would you say to a university grad coming out of uni wanting to work?
Yeah, I would agree. I think everyone at Avamore and who's in the position they are now is absolutely testament to that. If you work hard, you will do well. And if you don't work hard, unfortunately, it doesn't suit our environment. As someone who is young and hardworking, wants to apply themselves, the thing that I often find with those sorts of characters is they're the ones that tend to doubt themselves. I think as a young person, my advice would just be to just go for it. You have to just go for it and get started. Otherwise you'll just be, you'll never get moving.
They're not trying to get it perfect. So I just want to add in there, because I spend some time with, I've spent quite a bit of time with, early grads and early 20-year-olds. And I think they're trying to calculate everything and try and get it right. Like, I remember the sayings of you have to kiss loads of frogs before you find like your Prince Charming, right? And that applies the same with jobs. You have to get through a lot of shitty jobs before you understand who you are. And everyone's trying to nail that first job and being really picky. But just know that, okay, that guy, that girlfriend did not work out. Right, next, you go on to the next. And then by the time you find your dream partner, it's because of all those setbacks that you had that you got to know yourself. Same with work, you know, you go for your first job like you and I did, and we were like, what are we doing here? But that then taught us how to not be and how to be in the next job. So stop trying to get it right first time, and just like you said, go for it, and like learn as you go along. Like, university was where you got your degree. Life is where you learn about, you know, your life experiences. So yeah, just go for it.
Yeah, 100% agree. And to be honest, if you left uni and were in the same job for 10, 15 years, I just think that's quite boring. So
diversify.
Yes, exactly. 100%.
Yeah, definitely. Because the more you diversify, I also think the more you learn new things. Because if you've been in a job for 10 years, 15 years, that's all you know. And that's great. That's honorable. It shows that you're committed and loyal. But actually, when was the last time you learned something new? So yeah, keep it fresh. So, well, there you have it, guys. That was Sabinder from Avamore Capital. I hope that this short and sweet introduction to Sabinder's world and her journey into this industry at such a young age has been an inspiration to you all for what is possible. Sabinder, thank you again so much for being here with me. I've enjoyed really getting to know you.
Me too. Thanks so much for your time. It's been great.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.